There was a day last year I was playing at Aria. I'm on the river, I check, a guy bets, I go all in. Now the way I did it, I had chips in my hand, way behind the line. I announced all in. I looked right at the dealer, I announced all in. She said, "What did you say?" I said all in a second time, and I slid some chips forward. Not every chip in my stack. I slid some amount of chips that it was clear I had raised. The other guy throws in one chip. If he had said I call, he is definitely on the hook for the all-in. I announced all-in, he says I call. When he throws in one chip, it's not clear whether he knows I went all-in or not. He was willing to call a small raise. He was not willing to call all-in. He didn't hear me say all-in, even though I said it twice, and after I said it twice, the dealer said it. So he calls the floor. The floor comes over, listens to what the guy says, which he doesn't say things that happened. He just says what he wishes were true. He said, I slid out the amount of chips that's in front of me, and then well afterwards, I announced all in. That was a lie. The guy sitting next to him, who had no stake in this hand, says the exact same thing. The chips were out there and my hand came back, and well afterwards I said all in. Also not true. I tell the floor what actually happened. He bet, I announced all in, and then slid some amount of chips forward. The guy who doesn't want to be on the hook for the all in says I'm lying, even though he was. And he says the amount of chips I put out there to make him call without him knowing what the bet was. It was like about a min raise or a little more than a min raise. The reason I did that was actually to protect him. I did that for two reasons. One, if I didn't throw any chips out there, if I just announced all in, he might have no idea because he's not paying attention for sounds. He's only paying attention visually, kind of. It would have stalled the game. If I just said all in and put no chips out there, he would think I hadn't acted yet. I didn't want to slow down the game. If I put exactly the amount of chips he put out, he might think I only called if he didn't hear me verbally say all in. So whatever, say he bet $50. If I announced all in and then slid out 50, if he's only paying attention visually, he might think I just called and he might table his hand face up. I protected him from exposing his hand too early by making sure I slid out an amount that was at least a legal minimum raise. For doing all this, for protecting the speed of the game, and for protecting him from showing me his cards before the hand is over, he calls me a liar and a cheater. He says I'm lying about what happened to the floor. I'm the one saying things that aren't true, even though that was exactly what he was doing. And he said I slid out the exact amount of chips at exactly the right time when I verbalized something maybe to induce him into calling all in. None of that was true. It was the first time in poker I had been called a cheater or a liar. I told the floor, I understand why this guy is saying things that aren't true. He's saying what he wished happened because he's worried he might be on the hook for this all-in. I have no idea why the guy next to him is making up lies, but he has no stake in this hand, and I don't know what his agenda is. But I'm saying things that actually happened, which the dealer, by the way, was backing me up. No one cared about what she was saying. I told the floor, I'm the one saying things that are actually true. Just make a decision based off of what I'm telling you, not what the two of them are telling you. And he said the guy's going to be on the hook for the amount of chips I slid out, but not going to be on the hook for the all-in, which is the correct decision. If it was verbal, if I said I'm all in, if he said I call, he's on the hook for everything. I've seen plenty of times someone throw out a chip, not know exactly what it is. You know, there might be a raise to 20 pre-flop. It happens a lot pre-flop. There's a raise to 20. A guy doesn't see it. He just limps in the 3, and they say you could forfeit the 3 and fold, or you can call the 20. Those are your options. So similar on the river. He could put in the chips I put in above his bet, or he could call all in. He chose to just put in the chips. The funny part was when it was all done, he didn't show his hand and make me show my hand. He put in the additional amount of chips and then mucked. So I never had to show anybody what I had. For all he knew, I mean, he might have been ahead. So you would think he would at least table his hand, make me show my hand and see what I had. But yeah, that guy called me a cheater. There was actually a time in Council Bluffs to show how much of a cheater I am not. There was a time I was gonna bet 140 on the turn. I had like one hand in my pocket or like holding something, so I was only gonna move the chips out with one hand. So instead of 2 motions, which you can't do, I announced 140 and then slid them out in 2 motions. The 40 happened to be first, the 100 happened to be second. The guy thought I said 40 and put in 40 and didn't put any more chips in. So when the dealer said it's 140, the guy said, oh, I thought it was 40, and the first thing he slid out was a 40. You know, I looked over, it was only 40. The floor listened to the dealer said he announced 140, I announced 140, it's 140, you know, he needs to hear that. I actually gave the guy folded, I actually gave him his $40 back, because this wasn't my intent, but I actually thought I said 140 verbally too close to pushing the 40 out. I meant to say it before my hand moved at all. 140, then move the 40, then move the 100. I was actually moving the 40 pretty close to when I announced 140, and if he were looking more than listening, I could understand why he thought it was 40. So even though the floor made the ruling, you can leave the 40 out there and forfeit your hand, or put in the 100 and we go to the river. I took the $40 in chips, which you're not really supposed to do, but I took $40 in chips and just around the back of the dealer, because I was in the 1 seat, he was in the 9 seat, just gave him his $40 back. It wasn't my intent, but it was pretty close, and I could see why he was confused. If I had announced 140 and then waited a split second and then moved the chips out, I never would have done that. But I thought unintentionally it was too close of a call, and I could see why he was kind of confused. That's how much I am not a liar or a cheater, and never want the reputation of a liar or a cheater. And when I did that move correctly at Aria, announced it clearly before moving any amount of chips, what happens? The other guy in the hand, just because he's mad he wasn't paying attention, called me a liar and a cheater. So that happened at Aria. It's rare. I've seen other people called cheaters. I've seen other people definitely their intent was to angle. That was the only time in my life I've been called a liar or a cheater, though. It was last year at Aria.